In recent years, we've seen a big push towards striper conservation. The slot limit has ensured that big fish get released, and circle hook regulations improve catch and release mortality rates. Another effort that we've seen many anglers make this season is switching from treble hooks to inline singles when fishing plugs. In addition to causing far less damage to the fish, inline singles have a bigger gap and heavier gauge than trebles of the same size. The bigger gap and heavier gauge means far less bend downs when connected to big fish. In the past few seasons, we've actually seen a lot of plugs starting to come equipped with the VMC Inline singles. These two plugs are from Rapala. They both feature VMC hooks, but the X-Wrap, which is a great inshore lure for striped bass, comes with the VMC Inline singles. Of course, a lot of plugs out there are still going to come with trebles. So right here we have a chart that breaks down some of the popular striper fishing plugs and the best inline single replacement for them. If you don't see your favorite striper plug on there, that is a-okay. We're going to use this Habs needlefish as an example of a general rule of thumb you can use when upgrading your treble hooks to inline singles. So a good rule of thumb to use when you're upgrading to VMC inline singles is to take the treble that came with the plug and match it to the gap of the inline single. So you see right there, the VMC 6.0 just about matches up with the gap of the treble that came on the Habs needlefish. Now, this rule is great for plugs that you constantly keep tension on, like needlefish and minnow plugs, but on topwater plugs, you can actually go up even heavier. So here we have the Dock classic striper lure at this point, and here we have it outfitted with 7.0 VMCs. Now the Dock is a floating lure that you're gonna fish with a little bit of slack in your line, so when you're working it, that's gonna give it that wide walk the dog action. So you can actually bump up the hooks even more. So we have 7.0s, but you could even bump up to 8.0s if you wanted to. And the reason that's a good idea on a topwater plug is that when a striper blows up on it, you're giving them a bigger gap to potentially hook up to. So right now, we're actually gonna show you how to change out your treble hooks to inline singles. So right here, we have a Rapala skitter pop, and we're gonna swap out the treble hooks. And if you look really closely at this plug, you can actually tell that the belly treble is a lot bigger than the tail treble. So, using the match the gap principle, we're gonna use a 5.0 VMC on the belly, and you can see here that it matches the gap just about perfectly with the 5.0. And on the tail hook here, we're gonna use a 4.0. So if you're serious about upgrading your hooks to inline singles, it's a good idea to get a good pair of split ring pliers. And you can see that right here, we got a little bit of a extra kind of tooth or overhang here. And that's gonna let you get a little bit more leverage and drive it into the split ring there and open it up and take off the hook. So we're gonna do that right now. Here we go, we have the treble there off. And now we're gonna drive that point right back in between the split ring. And we're gonna do the same, kind of drive split ring apart with the eyelet of the hook. And then we're gonna just twist it on there. And one important thing to note is that generally speaking, you want that hook point facing out. So you can see we have the X-Wrap shallow, hook points facing out. That's gonna give you the best hookup ratio far and away in most cases. And so now we're gonna do the tail hook on here. We're gonna replace this smaller treble with the 4.0 instead of the 5.0 that we have up front. That way we can keep the plug balanced and working properly. So there we have it. We have a Rapala skitter wrap with a 5.0 on the belly and a 4.0 on the back, and that's gonna keep it balanced like the same way it came out of the package.